There comes a moment in every human life when the mind becomes louder than reality. You're breathing, but you're not alive. You're awake, but you're not living. Your thoughts become a battlefield where every memory is a weapon, every fear is a soldier, and every insecurity is a silent enemy waiting to attack. People think overthinking is just thinking too much. It's not. It's self-torture. It's the mind creating storms that don't exist. It's replaying conversations that never happened, imagining outcomes that will never come true, and believing lies that your emotions whisper to you in the dark. And the most dangerous part? The mind becomes addicted to its own suffering. It convinces you that worrying is protecting you, that imagining the worst is preparing you, that analyzing every detail is controlling your future. But here's the truth your mind never tells you. Overthinking doesn't protect you, it paralyzes you. It doesn't give you clarity, it blinds you. It doesn't make you wise, it makes you tired, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Today, we dive into the dark psychology behind overthinking, not the surface explanation society gives you, but the hidden truth your mind avoids. Most people assume overthinking is simply fear, anxiety, or being too sensitive, but the truth is far darker and much more complicated. Overthinking is not just an emotional habit, it is a psychological strategy your mind uses to delay life. When you overthink, you create the illusion that you are being cautious, careful, or intelligent. But underneath, something much deeper is happening. Your mind is protecting you from responsibility by overwhelming you with endless thoughts. It distracts you from action by drowning you in analysis. Think about the moments when you overthink the most. Decisions, relationships, opportunities, mistakes. The pattern is clear. Your mind begins to overanalyze right when something important is required from you. Why? Because taking action means stepping into uncertainty. It means risking failure, judgment, rejection, disappointment, or change. And the human mind fears these things more than anything else. So instead of allowing you to act, the mind throws you into a maze of thoughts. Overthinking becomes a shield, a psychological escape route. If you're thinking, you're not doing. If you're analyzing, you're not deciding. If you're imagining, you're not experiencing. Your mind convinces you that thinking more will protect you from pain, that if you just think long enough, you'll find the perfect answer, the perfect moment, the perfect plan. But perfection is the trap. It's the prison disguised as protection. Overthinking is how the mind postpones challenges it doesn't feel ready to face. It tells you, you're not prepared yet, you're not sure yet, you need more time. But that is not preparation, that is avoidance. There is a darker truth behind this. Your mind fears responsibility more than it fears overthinking. Because responsibility requires courage. Responsibility demands action. Responsibility exposes you to the real world where things can go wrong. When you take action, you become accountable for the outcome. That's what the mind is running from. Not the situation, your role in it. Imagine someone trying to step out of a comfort zone. The moment they get close to change, their mind whispers, wait, think a little more. Maybe this isn't the right time. What if something goes wrong? Those thoughts are not warnings, they are chains. They keep you exactly where you are because the comfort zone feels safe. Even if it is painful, predictable pain feels safer than unpredictable change. So the mind chooses fear over responsibility, anxiety over growth, paralysis over progress. This is why overthinkers often feel mentally exhausted, but physically stuck. You're tired from all the thinking, yet nothing changes in your reality, because the mind has convinced you that thinking is doing. But thinking is not doing. Thinking is a delay tactic. It keeps you in preparation mode forever. In this way, overthinking becomes the most elegant form of self-sabotage. The most dangerous part? The mind makes you believe that overthinking is intelligence. That because you see 10 possibilities, you're wise. Because you analyze deeply, you're careful. Because you think ahead, you're strong. But true strength is not in contemplating life, it is in confronting it. People who take action are not fearless, they just refuse to live trapped inside their heads. They trust themselves more than their doubts. They move even when they feel uncertain. If you want to understand the psychology your mind hides from you, it is this. Your mind fears losing control, and action requires surrendering control. When you act, you step into the unknown. When you overthink, you stay in the familiar. The mind would rather keep you safe in a prison than see you walk into a future it cannot predict. But here is the truth you must embrace. Every life you dream of exists outside the walls of your overthinking. Every breakthrough, every opportunity, every transformation requires a moment where you stop thinking and start living. The mind will resist it, but your soul is longing for it, because deep down, you know that real life only begins when overthinking ends. Every person who struggles with overthinking is carrying a wound they rarely talk about. It might be a memory from childhood, a moment of rejection, a betrayal you never fully healed from, or a time when life suddenly changed and left you feeling powerless. Overthinking doesn't start randomly. It is born from a moment your heart couldn't handle, a moment your mind never forgot. And instead of letting that pain rise to the surface, the subconscious builds a psychological defense that looks like thinking, but is actually emotional protection. Your mind begins to work overtime, not because you want to, but because your subconscious fears you will be hurt again. So it keeps replaying situations, analyzing people's actions, and predicting every possible scenario. It becomes hypervigilant, always scanning, always preparing, always suspicious. You start overthinking not because you're weak, but because your mind is trying to guard you. It believes that if it can foresee danger, then maybe it can prevent the pain of the past from returning. This is the dark side of the subconscious. It protects you by making you suffer. It convinces you that worrying is a shield, but in reality, it's a cage. Instead of preventing pain, it keeps you stuck inside old wounds. Instead of helping you heal, it repeats the trauma in slow motion. Think about it. Overthinkers rarely worry about random things. They worry about patterns, being abandoned, being misunderstood, being rejected, being judged, being replaced, being hurt. These fears are not intellectual, they are emotional imprints. They come from experiences that shook you so deeply that your mind decided it would never let you go through them again. So it builds walls made of thoughts, scenarios, doubts, assumptions, and warnings. Your subconscious believes it's protecting you when it says, check that again, maybe they're lying, don't trust too easily. What if this ends badly? What if you get hurt again? But these questions are not insight. They are echoes of old pain. They are reminders of the moment your heart cracked, when your innocence faded, when your trust was broken. Instead of healing, your mind becomes a projector, replaying the pain on loop. You're not overthinking the present moment. You're reliving the emotions of your past. This is why overthinking feels so heavy. It's not just mental, it's emotional. It's your subconscious trying to resolve something that still hurts but has never been confronted. The mind remembers what the heart tries to forget. People say, just stop overthinking. They don't understand that the mind is not the problem, the wound is. You don't have an overthinking problem, you have an unresolved pain problem. And here is the deepest truth of dark psychology. The subconscious believes that staying in fear is safer than being vulnerable again. So it keeps you alert, guarded, doubtful, hesitant. It convinces you that expecting the worst will protect you. But expecting the worst only keeps you living in the same emotional state you were in when the wound first appeared. Overthinking is your subconscious saying, I don't ever want to go through that again, but by trying to avoid pain, you end up creating more pain. You avoid relationships, opportunities, decisions, and experiences that could help you grow. You stay stuck in mental spirals because the mind thinks movement is dangerous. Yet the truth is this, healing doesn't come from thinking. Healing comes from feeling. You cannot protect yourself from pain by overanalyzing life. You can only heal pain by understanding it, grieving it, forgiving it, and releasing it. Overthinking is a symptom, not a personality trait. It is the subconscious trying to keep you safe in the only way it knows how. But your future cannot unfold if your past remains unhealed. And the moment you begin to understand where your overthinking comes from, the moment you meet your wound with compassion instead of fear, that is the moment the chains begin to break. That is the moment your mind finally relaxes. That is the moment you begin to live again. The human mind has a strange relationship with uncertainty. In fact, the mind hates uncertainty more than it hates pain. Pain is familiar. Pain has shape. Pain has memory. But uncertainty is a blank page, and a blank page terrifies the mind because it cannot predict what comes next. So when your brain doesn't know what will happen, it begins to fill in the blanks with imagined possibilities. This is the beginning of mental torture, your mind creating stories in the silence. Think about the moments when you don't have all the answers. Someone takes a little longer to text you back. A situation doesn't unfold the way you expected. You're waiting for a decision, a response, a sign. Your brain starts building assumptions like a machine that never stops running. It recreates discussions that never happened and interprets neutral gestures as hidden messages. It reads danger into silence and uncertainty into calm moments. This is not insight. It is psychological overactivity caused by fear of the unknown. The truth is, when information is missing, the mind invents information. It fills empty spaces with imagination, not reality. The less you know, the more you assume. The more you assume, the more you suffer. Humans are wired to prefer a painful truth over an unknown possibility. If the mind can't be sure, it chooses worry because worry feels like preparation. It convinces you that expecting the worst protects you from being blindsided. But in reality, expecting the worst only blinds you to the truth. This is the dark psychology behind the mind's tendency to exaggerate problems. The brain wants control, not accuracy. It doesn't care if the narrative is wrong. It only cares that it feels predictable. Predictable fear is easier for the brain to handle than unpredictable peace. So even when things are fine, the mind will search for hidden danger. It will magnify small details, overanalyze harmless gestures, and turn minor uncertainties into major threats. The mind creates storms just to avoid sitting in silence. Overthinking becomes the way the mind avoids emotional risk. If you expect something bad, you think you are protecting yourself. But what you are actually doing is harming yourself before anything has even happened. You feel anxiety today for a problem that may never arrive tomorrow. You suffer emotionally over a future that does not exist. That is the tragedy of overthinking. You bleed for wounds that haven't happened yet. This is why people who overthink often feel emotionally drained. You're not tired from life. You're tired from the life your mind is inventing. You carry the weight of imaginary scenarios, and each scenario adds another layer of stress, fear, and self-doubt. The brain is trying to create certainty by imagining every possible outcome, but instead, it floods your body with anxiety, confusion, and mental fatigue. The most dangerous part, when you overthink long enough, the mind begins to believe the stories it creates. Assumptions become truth, fear becomes logic, doubt becomes evidence. You start reacting emotionally to things that aren't real. Your heart begins to race, your stomach tightens, your chest feels heavy, even though nothing dangerous is actually happening. The brain triggers the body into survival mode over thoughts, not reality. This is how overthinking slowly reshapes your entire emotional world. It makes you mistrust people, even when they're genuine. It makes you fear situations, even when they're harmless. It convinces you that disaster is always around the corner, making peace feel temporary and happiness feel suspicious. When the mind exaggerates problems, life becomes a battlefield, even when no war exists. But here is the truth the mind tries to avoid. Clarity comes from action, not analysis. You will never think your way into certainty. You will never worry your way into safety. You will never find peace by searching for what could go wrong. The only way to calm the mind is to accept that uncertainty is part of life. Not everything needs to be predicted. Not every silence hides danger. Not every unknown is a threat. When you stop trying to control the future, the mind finally relaxes. When you let go of the need for certainty, overthinking loses its power. The world becomes lighter, your thoughts become quieter, and for the first time, you begin to experience life as it is, not as your mind imagines it to be. The greatest danger of overthinking is not the fear it creates, it is the relationship it destroys between you and yourself. Over time, overthinking begins to erode the most essential foundation of a healthy mind, self-trust. You start doubting your decisions, your feelings, your instincts, your worth. Every step you take feels shaky, every choice feels questionable, and every emotion feels suspicious. Slowly, quietly, without noticing, you become your own enemy. The mind is supposed to protect you, guide you, support you, but when it overthinks, it turns on you. It becomes a critic, a judge, a prosecutor. It attacks your confidence, magnifies your insecurities, and questions your every intention. Instead of being the source of clarity, it becomes the source of chaos. Instead of helping you grow, it pulls you backwards. You start living in a state of inner conflict, thinking one thing, feeling another, and doing nothing. The psychological truth behind this is profound. When you stop trusting yourself, your mind takes control. It believes it must think more because you are incapable of choosing. So it overanalyzes every detail, trying to compensate for the confidence you lost. But thinking too much only weakens self-trust even further. It becomes a cycle that feeds on itself. Your mind doubts you, so it overthinks. It overthinks, so you doubt yourself even more. In dark psychology, this is known as internal sabotage. You sabotage your peace by doubting your choices. You sabotage opportunities by questioning your potential. You sabotage relationships by assuming the worst. You sabotage your future by believing every fearful thought your mind creates. Without knowing it, you become both the prisoner and the jailer inside your own head. And the worst part is that overthinkers don't realize how often they fight against themselves. You may think you're being careful, but you're actually preventing yourself from moving forward. When you overthink, you hesitate, you delay, you avoid, you freeze. That moment of hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever will. Because failure teaches, but hesitation steals. Action expands your life, but overthinking shrinks it. Over time, this self-sabotage changes the way you see yourself. You start believing you are someone who always messes up, someone who cannot decide, someone who cannot trust their feelings, someone who must analyze everything to avoid disaster. Your identity shifts from a capable human being to a fearful thinker. And once you identify as an overthinker, you limit your entire existence to your mental spirals. This is how overthinking creates a silent war within you. You want to move forward, but you're afraid. You want to trust yourself, but you doubt your abilities. You want peace, but your mind is addicted to chaos. You want to live boldly, but you are trapped in hesitation. You start losing respect for yourself because you see how often you avoid your own potential. But here is the truth your mind refuses to tell you. Confidence is not destroyed in a single moment. It is destroyed slowly, with every thought you obey that was meant to be ignored. Every time you let doubt control your decisions, you teach your mind that fear is stronger than faith, and the more you obey doubt, the louder it gets. The way out begins with one powerful realization. You do not have to believe every thought your mind produces. Not every thought is truth. Not every fear is reality. Not every scenario deserves your emotional energy. Sometimes the mind is just scared, and that fear disguises itself as logic. But logic built from fear is not logic. It is self-sabotage. You rebuild self-trust the moment you decide to act despite uncertainty. When you choose even when your mind screams, "What if?" When you move even when you don't feel fully ready. When you stop letting fear write the script of your life. Because the reality is simple. You don't need more thinking. You need more living. And the moment you choose yourself over your fears, the war inside you finally begins to end. The mind quiets, the heart softens, the soul breathes again. And for the first time you realize something powerful. You were never your own enemy. Your fear was. And you were always stronger than that fear. Listen, your mind is powerful, but it is not always your friend. You must learn to observe your thoughts, not obey them. To feel your fears, not follow them. To hear your doubts, but not let them define you. You are not meant to live in the prison of your thoughts. You are meant to rise above them. Because at the end of the day, overthinking doesn't change the future. It only steals the present. And your present is the only place where life happens.